You're listening to the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast, where we talk about hunting, politics, sports, and everything in between. Now, here's your host, Steve West.
This is going to be a pretty special show today.
It is. I'm excited for today.
You should be. Did you get enough caffeine this morning?
Yep, and I got some more.
Because you're going to need, like, some speed.
Yeah, I got to get on this guest's level.
Yeah, this is this is a guy I've wanted to have on the show for a while,
Yep.
but I wanted to make sure that my energy level was going to match his, and I don't think that's possible.
Nope.
No.
But we're going to try.
We will definitely try. Maybe both of us together, we can
Yep.
push it to that next level. Welcome to the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast studio. I'm here at the table that we call Clark because it looks like Lake Clark. And I'm joined, of course, by Steve's Outdoor Adventures hunting consultant and my good friend Travis Price. On today's show, we have a special guest, as we've mentioned. And we're about to have him call in, and we're going to be joined by American singer, songwriter, guitarist, hunter, outdoorsman, and conservationist. His career started in 1963 as a member of the Amboy Dukes. His biggest hit was in 1977 with a name called Cat Scratch Fever. And if you have not heard that song, you've been living under a rock for the last 50 years.
Yep.
He was a part of the American supergroup, the Damn Yankees, and has been rocking America for almost 60 years. And he's a lifelong protector of the Second Amendment. We've been friends for about 20 years. And here shortly, we're going to welcome to the show the one and only Ted Nugent.
Nice.
Yeah, and I am pumped. I mean, and just as a little tease, for any of you who finished watching this podcast or listening to it to the very end, there's a special deal. So Ted last night sent me a new song that hasn't even been released yet, right? I played it for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And we get to premiere it. We get to
How cool is that?
we get to launch this song before anybody else in America hears it.
Yeah.
And so for everybody that listens to today's podcast, it's a special treat for you right after the closing credits.
Yep.
We're going to drop a shocker on you.
Exactly.
That's badass,
Yep.
too.
So make sure you watch till the bitter end.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it bitter. I'd
Yeah.
just say the very end.
The very end.
So, and while we're waiting for Ted to call in, I've had like some fond memories of Ted over the years. His energy, like he picks a fight with any politician that doesn't represent America.
Yep.
And he doesn't like apologize for it either. He just throws up his middle finger, racks around, and lets her fly.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's not shy on social media about it either.
No, but he's also not shy about it in person.
Yep.
Like in all seriousness, if Ted tells you something in social media, he'll say it to your face.
Yep.
Yeah. He doesn't pull any punches.
Yep.
He's got high energy and high passion for the outdoors, for his music, for his family and friends, and for the country. And serving as, I think he was a board member with the NRA, and
Yep.
I mean, Boys and Girls Clubs.
He gives back a lot. It's crazy. Like I had no idea until you start like digging into what he's done and what he does currently.
Yeah.
He gives back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just a good American.
Yeah.
And, and I've watched him over the years hunt, his beloved white-tailed deer and whatever else he might want to go after. He's got some hunts he wants to do. He's been talking to me about. I was telling you that he had some goals, and he's going high energy, and we're going to talk about. Well, his energy carries over into something else we're going to talk about later. And that is like this guy's played almost 7,000 concerts in his life.
Isn't that crazy?
7,000.
Yep.
I wouldn't even want to do 7.
Yeah.
Stand out
Where
for all
does
those
he
people.
get his passion and energy? Night in, night out.
Drug-free, alcohol-free, the whole bit. I mean, his energy just comes from his soul.
Yeah.
I definitely look forward to when the phone lights up and his call comes in. His assistant just called and said that he was ready to go. So we could get the call any second.
Yep.
So,
it'll be a good one.
It's going to be a dandy, no doubt about it. So, hey, did you? How's the Wyoming thing coming along? I know we got about 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, we're
here.
down to the wire.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's going well.
Yeah.
Yep. Just a matter of getting everybody in the draw and
Paperwork time
and making sure all our T's are crossed, their I's are dotted, and then it's just the waiting game to when the draw results come out, which we spoke on the last podcast. It used to be, end of February where we had more time if anyone didn't draw, but now it's May or June time frame. So just got to wait a little bit longer. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that program, but
it is what it is.
Yeah, it's the thing that I've noticed is that there's a lot more people getting into the draw year after year after year, and hunts that used to be a 1 or 2 point draw are now 3, 4, 5 point draws, and
For sure.
it's changed the dynamic of what we do for sure.
Yep. And now I'm talking to a lot of people about their goals, what their age is, right?
Yeah.
What their schedule looks like, because people may have started building points for certain goals that now have changed because they're going to be maybe not reaching those goals with point creep. So. Yeah.
It's like you got to plan your life 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years in advance now, your hunting career based around how you can get a tag.
Which by then might be 12 to 14 years. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. The call we've been waiting for. Is this Ted?
Yeah, it is, Steve.
It's Ted fucking Nugent.
Full fucking time.
That's the best intro ever.
Hell yeah. We were just talking about how much high energy Ted Nugent brings. I'm surprised you don't have your own Energizer Bunny commercial.
Well, they tried to make one, but they all died trying to keep up with me. So I just get up and flames come out of my ass every day because I got this American dream and a middle finger. What more do you need?
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that this is a podcast and we will cuss a lot. So if you have sensitive ears, turn it off.
Yeah, it might not be for you.
Yeah, we're going to drop some F-bombs and have some fun today. So, hey, Ted,
I think the most important thing is that no child has ever been hurt by the word shit.
It left their body.
Now, that's the whole thing, and again, we are in trouble in America, and we got some punk in the White House to prove it, that we've misprioritized for far too long. And let me make perfectly clear about the authenticity of street language. I don't know if anybody out there saw it, but I saw the French documentary crew, Raw, filming as the first and second plane hit the Twin Towers. And you know what every one of those definitive ultimate warrior heroes said live on September 11th, 2001? Get that motherfucking hose up those fucking stairs. Save that fucking lady over there from the elevator. Get these every other word were emphatic, legitimate English terms that express nothing but good based on the circumstances. Now that's the take of a guitar player who never went to college because I was too busy learning shit. So let's make sure that we have fun with Steve West and Ted Nugent because we deserve each other.
Hell yes, Ted. Hey, how was the past hunting season? Did you have fun?
I ain't done yet, son. I get up every day and I run a trap line here in Texas because there's this really weird thing. It's radical. It's extreme. It's really outrageous and disturbing to many sheep out there. But we actually have freedom in Texas. It's really a unique celebratory thing every day of my life. So our deer season, once we hammered the bureaucrats so that science was the foundation of our game laws. Boy, how radical can you get? Anyhow. We hunt whitetails right till March 1st on private land because guess who knows the best and the truth and the real science from boots on the ground, hand-on eyewitness accounts of wildlife conditions on private property? There would only be one set of the society. That would be the landowner, not some punk-ass bureaucrat in an office going, well, according to my computer screen. Hey, shove your computer screen up your ass. I know what's best for my land. I will do the right thing. And oftentimes, the right thing, the moral thing, the science-based safety thing to do is against the law in Oregon and Washington and California and Illinois and Michigan and New York and New Jersey and Massachusetts. Do I need to really go on? So the point is, to answer your question with as much effervescence as I can muster, which is substantial, by the way. My effervescence is actually measured in ballistics. Anyhow, yes, I'm having a wonderful, wonderful hunting season. The mystical flight of the arrow was literally Jesus grabs my arrows in flight and stabs the creatures in the heart. So, yeah, I'm up to my ass in back straps, and I still got another month to go, and the duck season goes on for another week. We have varmints and exotics and hogs. I mean, it literally is a dream for a guy who likes to live what God created and participate. So I'm saying hallelujah with you, man.
And through all of that, you've been busy recording music.
Yeah, I'm a busy son of a bitch. There is quite the vapor trail. You know, in my vapor trail is a lot of laughter and smiles and upgraded quality of life and a lot of really anguished liberal punks, but mostly because my music represents being very, very alive for 73 years. And Steve, as I said, you deserve me, and it's funny, but it's also accurate. I am so blessed. You know, I think maybe God loves me more than he loves you. I'm not sure. But,
It's quite
he has
possible.
always surrounded me with the most amazing, gifted work ethic, heart and soul musicians since 1958. I've had the greatest bandmates and the greatest rhythm section, and in the insanity of Cluster Fuck 21 and Cluster Fuck 22, I got Greg Smith on bass guitar and Jason Hartless on drums, and I have a new record called Detroit Muscle. And my God, if I wasn't me, I'd buy that record. It's so intense and so much fun. I just can't rave enough about it, man.
Awesome. Hey, you know, something you're involved in and your energy is like infectious, and I know that it's carrying over, and it means a lot to you, is the Hunter Nation, you know? I mean, look, I've donated to Hunter Nation a bit. You know, the guys that are running that are doing a phenomenal job. I mean, what does Hunter Nation, I guess, mean to you? Why did you get so involved in Hunter Nation?
Well, again, I referenced my vapor trail. I've always been attacked, which means I'm really doing a good job, because the people who attack me are such scum. I mean, the lies and the hate leveled towards me just proves definitively that I'm doing God's work. Because when people try to contest me, they go, well, let me take the devil's advocate point of view. Well, if you're going to contest what I just said, you're going to have to take the side of the devil, because I'm Michael the Archangel. So go for it, numbnut. My point being, my point being is that I started railing and sucker punching with mostly humor, but statistics, irrefutable science and evidence against the exploding hippie beatnik numbnut comfortably numb uncomfortably dumb anti-hunting, animal rights, anti-gun world in the entertainment industry. And the first time I ran into it was probably as early as, I don't know, 65, 66, when radio was going underground and playing more than just the hit records, playing deeper tracks where musicians were stretching out and really being adventurous, and really incredibly genius music coming out of the late 50s and the 60s. And when I ran into resistance, they'd ask me where all my energy comes from and where the Amboy Dukes come up with this musical passage, and how did you create this riff? And I'd go, well, I killed a deer this weekend with my bow and arrow, so I'm feeling pretty good. And they would go, you like murdered a deer? And I go, yeah,
ate
I
it
guess
too.
I took his life. Yeah, but unlike the paroled scum in Detroit, at least I eat what I kill. So you could tell that I wasn't offended. I was quite shocked, because I knew, being raised in a hunting family, literally by my dad and my uncles and Fred Bear, Steve, come on.
Oh yeah.
So I knew what I did was very stimulating, very biologically sound, very essential, all good, nothing negative whatsoever about a weekend bow hunting with my dad. And here's this uncomfortably dumb, drooling stoner on FM radio trying to find fault with the perfection of hunting and killing a deer. So if I had a flash of shock, I winced and furrowed my brow, and I go, what is this guy? But I immediately, born in Detroit, I didn't invent cocky, but I surely perfected it by the time I was 9. And so instead of trying to defend hunting, which needs no defending whatsoever, I went on the assault, the aggression against these stupid presumptions and dishonesty and disconnect. And actually, the lifestyle of anti-hunting and animal rights was rock solid in the liability column of nature. So if you've noticed, I've had fun with it.
Yeah.
I don't defend hunting. I promote it and celebrate it. And if somebody's going to open the door for me to further promote and celebrate my hunting by trying to find fault with it, I just dance on their skulls. And
Hell yeah.
I'm still communicating with kids. They were kids back in 1966, 1967. I still communicate. Go to my Facebook and look at the unsolicited testimonials. I heard you on KC Radio in 67, man, and I heard you promoting marksmanship and aim small, miss small, and that your idea of gun control is putting the second and third bullet in the same hole as the first bullet. And I had a riot. Listen, I almost drove off the road because all I'd ever heard was anti-gun stuff and anti-hunting stuff. And I mean, I'm literally still getting this from people who heard it's baptismal moment of Ted Nugent stomping the living shit out of anti-hunters and anti-gunners, but not in a mean way, in a funny way. It's like having an arm wrestle with the guy that forgot to bring his arms. I mean, it's too easy. So yeah, my energy now has got teammates, and I've watched, and thank you for your support of Hunter Nation, because I've watched SCI and DU and the Rocky Mountain Elk and the turkey and the Pheasants Forever and whitetails. I mean, I've donated to every imaginable conservation, from Trout Unlimited, the Grouse Society. I mean, I love all that stuff. I eat that stuff. And according to my donations, Ducks Unlimited owes me about 1 million mallards. My point being is that I've watched these guys, and I've watched these events where literally, Steve, you know it, trillions of dollars crosses hands at DSC and SCI and NRA and Rocky Mountain. Trillions if you really added them up. But you know what? You still can't hunt on Sundays in 8 states. Every state is still plagued by insane regulations that have no foundation in safety or science. Like, God bless Ducks Unlimited. It's great duck world today. Them and Delta Waterfowl. I give Delta Waterfowl even more support. But are you telling me that the 1937 Dust Bowl regulation, which made perfect sense during a Dust Bowl, because the prairie pothole breeding zones were gone. There was no duck production because of the Dust Bowl. But guess what, Steve? Follow me and have mercy on the guitar player, because I don't have any shingles on my wall authenticating my science understanding. But follow me. The Dust Bowl is over. Get rid of the stupid 3-shell limit. Well, they might make sky bust. They're sky busting with single shots. So you see what I'm saying when I say stuff like this? A lot of the holier than now, Mitt Romneys of the conservation world. Nugent's a bit radical. We want to look ethical. We are ethical. Hunters are ethical. The laws are unethical. And I'll give you an example. In every state, I believe this is true in every state, but if it's true in Texas, where freedom runs wild, it must be illegal everywhere. All right, so Steve, you're driving down the highway. And certainly, as a real American, you got a knife and a pocket tool, you got a handkerchief, you got some chapstick, you got a little flashlight, you got a gun on your belt with a bunch of ammo. I know you do.
Oh, yeah.
So you see a deer caught up in a barbed wire fence. By the way, I've done this numerous times. And that deer is struggling. You can see that half of his left ham is gone because the coyotes have eaten at him alive. And this deer is suffering. By law, I'm supposed to call a guy? Are you kidding me? So I dial somebody who can take care of this situation better than me? That man doesn't exist. Yeah. I'm going to break the immoral law, and I'm going to put the deer out of his misery. Fuck you.
I agree.
Any questions?
No. Matter of fact, tell you what, Ted, we got to take a quick commercial break for 1 second here. And when we get back, I'm actually going to share a similar story with you real quick. And then I'm going to tell you what Hunter Nation means to me, because I think it's an important thing that we need to spread the word about. Hey, we'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
You got it, man.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Bergara Rifles, where the people truly make the difference.
All right, we're back in the SOA podcast studio, and on the phone, we have Ted Nugent. Ted, we were just talking about, kind of the passions and things that drive you. We were talking about Hunter Nation, and then you brought up, dispatching a wounded deer. And a few years ago, I guess it's been more than a few now, but 6 or 7 years ago, I was driving down the road in Utah. I just left the ranch where we'd been hunting, and myself and one of my camera operators were driving back to the lodge, and we came across a woman who the front of her trailblazer was folded up, and she had a deer laying on the road struggling in front of her. And so I got out, and this lady, she was on the phone with the sheriff's department, and I just said, here, let me take the phone. So I took the phone and said, hey, I got a deer with a broken back here. I'm going to go ahead and dispatch it. And the woman on the phone said, no, you will not. We'll write you a ticket if you do that. And I was like, what? I mean, it just made no sense to me. And then I sat there for, and because, as you and I will both know, we have a lot to lose if we, with game violations, stuff like that. And in the state of Utah, that they hang people out to dry. So I sat there for about an hour and a half waiting for the sheriff's deputy to arrive that never arrived, or a game and fish guy that never arrived. And the whole time, I don't totally realize it, but this guy's rolling tape on me the whole time. And I'm mic'd up. I'm still hot micing. I'm losing my shit. I'm pacing back and forth. Mm-hmm. I'm getting mad at hell. And I racked around, walked over, I was getting ready to dispatch the deer. And a DFW truck is driving by. I literally flagged the guy in. I'm like, hey, are you the guy that was sent out to dispatch this deer? He's like, no, I'm going to check fishing licenses at the pond. It wasn't even him. And I was like, get the fuck out of the truck, take my gun, and shoot this deer before I lose it.
Yeah,
and
like right now.
Yeah, he had his own firearm, of course, and he took care of the job. But driving back, I just was losing it. We put that in the television show, and then the Sportsman Channel and Outdoor Channel put that clip into their social media feeds, and we put it in our social media feed, and 4 or 5 million views later, I got a call from a congressman in Utah that said, we have a stupid law in the books, and we need to change it. And,
nice.
the law got changed.
Bingo. I've been doing, Steve, you could not have spotlighted my point better than we need to be Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
I am a human being. I have a human being butt, and that's a human being seat. Get the fuck out of my way.
Yeah.
These conditions, like I could go on and on, but the point with Hunter Nation is that I finally got some allies, and I got people that weren't afraid to stand up against immorality, which is the driving force of an experiment in self-government, King George, yep. Joe Biden, et al. So Hunter Nation, we found, oh boy, Luke Hilgerman and Keith Mark, what a couple of warriors for truth, logic, common sense, and we the people freedom. Oh, yeah. They bought, we spent a lot of money buying all the statistics of all the licensed hunters in the United States of America. And then we cross-referenced them with the voting rolls. And I felt like William Wallace in Braveheart when it turned out that the guy that tried to kill me was a guy who was my dear friend and bonded to help overthrow the tyranny. Remember that scene? And he just laid back in the field and goes, my God, my dearest blood brother is now on the side of the enemy. Well, when that happens to me, I don't lay back in the field. I punch that prick in the throat and I move forward. And in that movie, I'd have cut his head off and used it for a bowling ball. But the point is that Keith Mark and Luke Hilderman found these statistics, and I was heartbroken when I saw that all these hunters that I had got an indicator over the years. I book hunts every weekend, September, October, November, December, all the time. Hundreds of hunters I guide and outfit every year. Hundreds. And I know you do too. But just on my ranch in Michigan, my ranch in Texas, we sell hunts, raise money for military and children's charities, and for my ammo. And we have campfires, and there's nothing more open and honest and uninhibited and unfiltered than shit kickers around campfires. And when I started posing the question, about this candidate in this state, all 50 states we've covered. And when I found out, and when we found the statistics in all 50 states of how many hunters have never been registered and never voted, but the loudest squawkers and crybabies in the world, and I would go, you gotta be kidding me. Nope. So you can't hunt on Sunday in your one of 8 states, and you've never even called your senator or congressman or governor? You've never even voted for something that would have helped you get rid of this tyrannical anti-American law? Well, Nancy Pelosi would like to say thank you and give you a big kiss. It's absolutely unforgivable. So Hunter Nation, We got boots on the ground in all 50 states, and we're a 501c3, so nobody gets paid, and we don't endorse candidates because we're not allowed to. But we promote God, family, country, law and order, freedom, the hunting lifestyle, hunting regulations based on safety and science exclusively. And boy, look what we did in 2016. That was us in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Those are the 3 states that got the deep state the hell out and got Donald Trump in. And he made so many I was going to use the progressive because I actually, in my Webster dictionary, describes it as forward motion, not what the progressives have compromised. My point is, everybody go to hunternation.org. I think we've got pheasant habitat covered, and we got elk conditions covered. We got trout covered, but we haven't got voting covered in all those other organizations. Hunternation.org. We have boots in the ground, and we literally knock on doors and we go, "Hi, I see you've been hunting for 48 years, but you've never voted?
Yep.
Please scrutinize the candidates. And if they're against our hunting lifestyle, let everybody know that they are not the friends of freedom. And find a guy or a gal that supports the hunting lifestyle and the real Second Amendment, which we can talk about in detail if you like, and vote in people who stand by the side of working hard, playing hard Americans for all the ingredients that bring the greatest quality of life in the history of the world, uniquely to the United States of America. And it's actually working. It's working.
Yep. I have a saying, Ted. I always tell everybody that on November 6th, if you don't like the results of yesterday's election and you didn't vote, shut the fuck up.
And you know what? There's no such thing as neutrality.
Nope.
A non-vote is a vote for the enemy. The statistics, the evidence is irrefutable. And again, I know people are, he's just a guitar player, but I go to the experts before I make a comment on anything. Before I ever talk to my mechanic about getting the maximum horsepower and torque out of my V8s, I got to know Parnelli Jones and Mickey Thompson and Bill Straub and all these mad scientist horsepower monsters. So my point is that if I'm ignorant about something, I go to the experts, like the frontline doctors when it comes to ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. Boy, somebody banned me. So yeah, I'm tuned in. I'm a father and a husband, and I'm an American, and we all owe all those flag draped coffins to fight for the freedoms they died for. And anybody that doesn't get that, you should swim south immediately to Cuba, where you can live your apathetic, embarrassing sheep-like life.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on every front. We've definitely got to push the voting message over and over and over again. And that's something that, I think that Ted, you and I and everybody, that is in the outdoor television community, I think we have a responsibility, whether it's in coordination with Hunter Nation or not, to, remember back in the day, we used to have rock the vote, to get out the vote. MTV would play that up, let's rock the vote. Well, realistically, we need to hunt the vote.
Yep. We actually have thevote.org. I think it's either huntthevote.org or huntthevote.com. And a lot of people, we proved in the last elections our vote don't count. We're working on that. We've got evidence now in Arizona and Texas that the entire 2020 vote was a scam and manipulated by tyrannical, power-abusing criminal scam punks that morphed right up to the White House and the FBI and across the nation. So we're working on that. But in 2022, who doesn't see that we're going down the toilet? And the only hope is to get conservative representatives who hold their oath to the Constitution. That is a sacred oath. And right now, the Democrats and rhinos violate it by the hour. And we've got to put an end to it. HunterNation.org. I swear to God, Steve, it's making a difference.
I agree. Hey, Ted, let's talk music for a second. So for everybody that's listening, Ted Nugent is better known as the Motor City Madman. He's a legend that has sold over 40 million albums. Oops. Let's get Ted back on the line. We had a little technical difficulty here, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're back from technical difficulties.
Yes, I think that was Kamala Harris just cut my line.
You talked too much about the politics, and they dropped a nuke on the cell tower. But anyways, once again, we're on the phone with the Motor City Madman. Ted, you've sold 40 million albums. You've played damn near 7,000 live concerts. You've survived cat scratch fever and the coronavirus. But let's talk music, right? So I messaged you the other day because I wanted to confirm this. You played 71 concerts in 71 days, right?
Yeah, that was right when I went from the Amboy Dukes to my solo career. And if they'd have booked a 72nd, I'd have been there.
Yeah. But I mean, but not that long ago, just a few years ago, you were on a hell of a rip too, weren't you? Like,
sure, with the damn Yankees, we put the damn Yankees together with the incredible Tommy Shaw and Jack Blades and Michael Cardelloni, just musical forces of nature.
Super.
And what a riot! What great music! What great collaborators! What great work ethic gentlemen! That describes all my bands, by the way, especially today. But yeah, we did over 200 concerts a year in 90, 91, 92, and 93. Then I went back to my solo stuff, and we kept doing 200 concerts a year. But you know, thank you for celebrating my music, because it's not just my music. I learned those riffs from struggling to play Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley licks and the left-hand piano on Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, the founding fathers, the most wonderful soundtrack of Middle Fingers on Fire that ever existed. How beautiful were those guys? And so that spirit of musical adventure is a direct result of the audiences that spurred me on. When I'd stumble out, well, I didn't stumble because I play my guitar every day, so I seek adventure. I'm like Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea when it comes to playing guitar, and I go to uncharted territory. But the musicians, Steve, you look at my musicians, my bandmates in the damn Yankees and the Amboy Dukes, and all throughout my solo career, good God, if you list the top 10 drummers that ever lived, I've had 8 of them.
Wow.
I mean, universally revered virtuosos, and to each and every gentleman, the work ethic is never celebrated adequately or accurately in the music industry. These musicians, my God, we work out. Now, it is fun, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But it is, you know, 15, 20-hour jam sessions looking for that next magical rhythm maneuver and offset at musical chord change. So we really, really love the music. And for all these people to celebrate it all these years, thank you. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. What a riot.
You either just released or you're about to release a single called Come and Take It. What?
Yeah, it's a love song. It's a love song to Beto O'Rourke and Joe Biden. It's that old colloquialism around the Alamo days when the Texas Patriots got a hold of one of Santa Anna's cannons, and it pissed off Santa Anna, which is our job. And I think Joe Biden wants to be Santa Anna when he grows up. And so when the Mexicans demanded to have their cannon back, we loaded it and said, "Come and take it, and we'll give you the giant lead ball first right up your ass." So that battle cry covers an awful lot of good over evil defiance, and I just couldn't help myself. Like every song I've ever written. In fact, I do interviews every day, and we're celebrating my amazing music, and it's amazing because of my bandmates and because I'm clean and sober, and I can actually channel meaningful ideas.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Keith Richards, who I adore. But when I sit down, which I do, I've already done it this morning, and I turn my phone on video because I capture these new rhythms and these new patterns, and they're just like animal breeding, soundtrack, grunting, grinding, ferocious, fun licks. And when I sat down that day, I tell the interviews, I don't write songs, I ejaculate them. I just let them rip. When I pick up my guitar in my man cave cuckoo's nest, and I wish we had video of me right now because I'm really uniquely handsome this morning. But if I could play like I do in a lot of Zoom calls, the tone and the grunt and the voice and the timbre and the expanse of my guitar tone. I play a Gibson Birdland by the Luthiers at Kalamazoo, Michigan, back in the 60s. Most of my guitars are in that span. And Steve, it's out of body. It's mesmerizing. Again, I emphasize I've been clean and sober for 73 years because as a bow hunter growing up as a kid, I knew that drooling was not an asset to getting close to a deer with a sharp stick. So I've never imbibed on anything that would interfere with my higher level of awareness, and that higher level of awareness, paying attention to the world around me, and maybe fantasizing about a world beyond the world around me. And that comes out of my guitar. And Come and Take It is a direct result of Joe Biden and Beto O'Rourke and these Democrat devils actually finally admitting that they were lying them when they always said, well, we just need a universal gun safety reform. Bullshit. They finally came out and said, we're coming to take your guns. So me and the boys recorded Come and Take It. And I sent a copy to Beto O'Rourke with my address. And I said, start with me, motherfucker.
You should have added the note, you can have my guns one round at a time.
That's right. So it's a love song to dirtbags.
Yeah. Nice. Well, and then that song's going to be on an album called Detroit Muscle that you're releasing in like late April sometime, right?
That's right. Well, Come and Take It's been out for about a month now, and it's really it's soaring in rock and roll radio. I mean, I think right now it's number 18 or so on national radio. So there are some patriots out there that, you know, still support self-evident truth and logic and common sense, and they love when Uncle Ted's got the balls to erect that middle finger on fire. But if you want to hear my fellow Motor City madman fire-breathing finger dog, check out Kid Rock's new record called "We the People." I mean, this guy is he might awesome. Be my son. I got to ask him who his mom is, because this guy. But Come and Take It is a fire breather. But more important than the political statement, what Greg and Jason do to my songs, it just grinds. James Brown and the Motown Funk Brothers would be proud of this song. It's just a grinding, fun song with a political message of defiance, what's more important?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Matter of fact, so I heard last night while I was wearing my wife out with that track you sent me. I mean, literally I put it on the Bluetooth speaker and was like jamming to it while I was doing some work upstairs. And she was like, can't you try a different song? So I flipped on We the People. And then I think she retired. She retired to the garage. And honestly, both songs are just like what you're saying. They're defiant and they have a message and they're fun. And let me ask this: when was the last time you released an album?
I had a killer album 2 years ago. In fact, the 2019 tour. Stop and think of the outrageous words I'm about to unleash upon you. I've done 6,766 rockouts. That goes all the way back to 1957, doing pool parties and sock hops and fraternity parties at the University of Detroit and playing in Marilyn McMillan's basement for her 14th birthday. So I've gone all the way back and counted every gig I've done. And we've come up with 6,766. And that includes some jam sessions at like music events. And I get on stage with ZZ Top or Journey or Heart or Aerosmith. And even though I might only play a couple songs, I consider that a rock out. So 6,766. And every one fire breathing. Yeah. Every one, the most important gig of my life. Every song, the most important song of my life. Every guitar tone, the most important delivery of my life. But in 2019, Steve, I swear to God, I swear to Chuck Berry, the greatest tour of my life. What Greg Smith and Jason Hartless bring to my music and the intensity of the audiences. And that was a tour called The Music Made Me Do It, because the music does make me do it. And that album was loaded with killer songs that Greg and Jason, they put everything into every song, every lick. And then just 2 years before that, I had an album called Shut Up and Jam. And before that, I had one called Love Grenade. So I've released, I don't know what the number is. I think it's 34 albums going back to the Amboy Dukes. But yeah, I release albums every couple of years. Right now, I got a bunch of new songs. I can't wait to go in the studio and capture these motherfuckers.
Well, and your hunting and your outdoor lifestyle and your love of the Second Amendment, they resonate in your music. Not every song, but they do resonate in your music. And obviously, you know, when you're inspired by something, that's where, you know, that's your release, right? That's your ejaculate, right? Is that music. And
sure.
But let me ask this: out of all the songs you ever wrote, sang, participated in, is there any one of them that's your favorite?
You know, that's impossible. That's like my favorite dog, my favorite kid. But I'll tell you, there's no question that stranglehold that has been embraced by military heroes going into battle, a lot of these Navy SEALs and Delta Force guys. I mean, how can I fit on the planet with this big head of mine? But my ego has literally been it's like an A-10 warthog of gliders. These heroes of the greatest commandos and the greatest warriors that have ever lived have said numerous times, Steve, that they play Stranglehold before we go into battle because it helps us kill more assholes.
I actually have had somebody tell me that.
Is there a greater compliment available on earth? And then equal to that, and that's really saying something, equal to that, the number of times people have contacted me about Fred Bear, the song Fred Bear, and what it means to them, and what it means when the birth of a child or the death of a child or the return of a flag draped coffin, or the family reunion for opening day of deer season, or the retirement party for a dad or a grandpa. What the emotion connected to some of my songs, I had no idea. I knew what it meant to me, and it did mean those things to me. But again, I use the term out of body when I'm ejaculating these songs. I don't write lyrics. I sing them, and then I have to go back and write them.
Gotcha.
I've never sat down to write a song. Go, gee, what key should what kind of tempo? No, never. I never go, well, tonight at 9:00, I'm going to undress Shemaine. No, it's not spontaneous. I'm so lucky to be able to live spontaneously all my life. Well, since I graduated from high school and before that in many ways. But these songs are so fucking powerful when I begin to play them. Even, Hibernation, the instrumental, Migration, the instrumental, Come and Take It. When I play that song, I did a jam session with some guys. The audience goes berserk, but I'm like floating. Yeah, I'm dedicated to delivering the song as tight and emotional and authoritative as possible. But I got to be careful because I go into outer space. It means so much to me. And then to hear all these examples, and from Delta Force to Mark Geist and Benghazi and all these heroes, when they reference my songs and how it fortifies them, I gotta maintain my composure. It's so it's what I mean.
It's cool.
So
it's inspirational.
Yeah. What a lucky guy I am.
Without a doubt. Hey, everybody, we need to go to a short commercial break real quick. When we come back, we have a couple of cool things that we're going to ask Ted about. Travis has been doing some research on some things. And, Ted, I'm going to ask you about an old friend you and I had in common many years ago. We'll be right back.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Pendleton Ammunition. Hand-loaded, one round at a time.
All right, everybody, we're back in the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast studio. Of course, I'm joined here by Steve's Outdoor Adventures hunting consultant and my good friend Travis Price, and on the phone we have Ted Nugent. Ted, Travis has been a lifelong fan of yours, and he was doing some research the other day, and he had a couple of questions. He wanted to ask you about some things that you seem to have a lot of passion about and something that inspired him.
Sure, my pleasure.
Travis.
Yeah, Ted, so I recently read a very powerful article that you wrote, I think back in November, titled I Love You. And I think it's very not only powerful but relevant to what's going on in the world right now, where you talk about the importance of telling people not only that are close to you, but even extended people, especially in the hunting industry, I love you. And then also you transition into talking about taking care of yourself from a standpoint of exercise and eating right. And I would really like to know, and I think our listeners would too, haven't read that article, is what inspired you to write that, because it was a fucking awesome article.
Well, again, I'm inspired by everything, every breath I take. I couldn't have told you this as I was doing it, but over the years, I finally identified what it is that I do. And what it is that I do is I maximize my radar. I train with the Navy SEALs and I train with Delta Force. Again, how lucky can a guy be? And I love shooting. I love handgun marksmanship. I love tactics. And I've been doing this since I was in my early 20s. I've been a sheriff deputy for 39 years, and I've conducted federal raids with the U.S. Marshals and the Texas Rangers, arresting murderers and rapists and child traffickers and kicking down doors at 3 a.m. and screwing 10-millimeter Glocks in the ears of an asshole. So that's relative to why I focus on I love you, because we're so driven, most of us, people in the asset column, to be productive and to be a good father, a good husband, a good neighbor, a good land steward, a good welder, a good mechanic, whatever your chosen craft may be. And I am high energy, and luckily I share the self-evident truth of the greatest philosopher of all times, Dirty Harry, when he said a good man knows his limitations. So I'm witnessing the pure evil of our government. And I was in Fallujah with the Marines in 2004. And I stood in 124 degrees saluting hundreds of flag-draped coffins. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop crying for weeks. And I spent a campfire with a guy who survived the Bataan Death March. And I couldn't stop crying. And then I see this government turn on those heroes who died for their constitutional oath. And I can't stop crying. And to fight the tears of blood, I want to reach out to fellow patriots and fellow self-evident truth people in the asset column that good will only overcome evil, like Kyle Rittenhouse did, and that great jury in Kenosha and that judge, if we continue to tell people in the asset column that we're with you and we love you, and we love those hardworking people that donate to DU and Rocky Mountain Elk, and we love those hunters that go to door with Hunter Nation, trying to get back to the foundational values of God, family, country, Constitution, Bill of Rights, that man in the arena work ethic that made the only quality of life in the history of the world in the United States of America. And now there's such a gang of evil forces, our own government, for me to have to say the truth that is so harsh, that is so awful, that the number one enemy of America is Uncle Sam. Yep. So if we're going to overpower the evil of the government, the evil gang of the FBI, the evil gang of the CDC and the WHO and the FDA, the evil criminals in the USDA and the U.S. Forest Service and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, if we're going to overcome this overwhelming gang of evil, we better look to our right and our left, beyond our family, and let them know that we love you if you will fight with us. We love you who work so hard you can make that donation. We love you who call your mayor, your senator, your congressman, your governor to let them know that not being able to dispatch that deer suffering is immoral. And I could go on, but you get the gist, don't you?
Yeah.
So I wrote that article because there's such contention in our own little niche of the hunting world, where some prick will tell you that you can hunt with a muzzleloader, but you can't have a scope on it. So let me get this right. So the policy is you're not allowed to be as accurate as possible. Really? So I could be here for the next 100 days and never stop with examples. Mm-hmm. What man walks the earth that can tell a licensed hunter in Pennsylvania you can't hunt on Sunday? Who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean?
Not a lot of love for that guy.
Hunt,
no.
Or you can't use bait or hounds to hunt cougars or bears, but the government can.
Yeah.
So I love you who are resource stewards and conservationists. I love you cops who charge into that engineered recidivism by the Democrat devils every day. But if we don't share love with those on the side of good, well, who's supposed to determine that, Ted? I'll be glad to. I can tell you what's good and what's evil. Kyle Rittenhouse, good. Arsonist, evil.
Yeah. That when I was watching that all unfold and the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing, I had somebody who's on the other side of the fence ask me why I supported, the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict when it came out. I said, first off, he was doing right. I said, the real shame here is that a teenage kid felt like he needed to go to his home, get a gun, and go do what other people are supposed to be doing. Yes. I mean, that's when your government has failed you. Your local, state, federal, whatever you want to call, whichever one's supposed to be there, they failed to the point where a teenage kid thought he had to go put himself in the fray.
Yeah, crazy.
A Concord Bridge moment that is an indicator of things to come. And when and again, gentlemen, spread it far and wide at every opportunity. We are living in an evil world of engineered recidivism. They are unleashing murderers and rapists and carjackers and child molesters and child traffickers. The Democrats are unleashing devils into our neighborhoods while they're defunding the warriors of law enforcement to protect us, telling us we're not allowed to stop evil. And you wonder why there's an exploding, ferocious, violent, vicious crime wave, because the Democrats are engineering it on purpose.
Yeah. Well, we'll knock them down one at a time.
And just so you know, Steve and I love you, Ted.
Yeah.
100%. And I love you. I'm a man raised in the post World War II arsenal of democracy, Detroit. And I don't think my dad ever said it. My kids get sick and tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
I'm 73 and I plan on at least 20. I'm hoping for 25 more opening days. That's my
fucking A.
Yeah.
So years ago, I started telling people who I love you.
Yeah.
And I do love people who stand up and people who get up early and take part in that outrageous rush hour every day and are in the asset column and are productive. And I love the people who donate to charities and help out their neighbors. And I love people who fortify their life, be the best that they can be so that they are ready to help others. I love those people.
Nice. Yeah, my other question, just not to change gears, but obviously our youth is so important in changing the world environment that we're in now. And I would like to hear a little bit more about what you have started through Camp for Kids. And I think you started that in like 1989 and what that's all about. And if you could share that, that'd be really impactful for giving back to our youth.
Yeah, Travis, thank you for that. And again, I would recommend, and Steve knows this, but you should interview my sons and daughters. Toby is an amazing hunter and a great dad and a great father, an incredible American, a great son. And my son Rocco, who's a vegan, which is awesome.
What the fuck?
Hardcore. He has a real digestive condition that he had to discover a way to keep himself healthy, and it turned out to be hardcore vegan. And like Pierce Morgan tried to corner me on that, I said, shut the fuck up. I'll get him a vegetable. I'll shoot some varmints that are interfering with his tofu production. Next question.
Yeah.
So that's a great question. But I did start the Ted Nugent Camp for Kids, Travis and Steve and everybody. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, strictly volunteer charity that has been conducting in Michigan, South Dakota, Iowa, certainly in Nebraska every year, and in Colorado with great volunteers. And we have saved thousands of kids' lives from the cultural abandonment that is plaguing our nation. Of course, the parents that bring them to the Ted Nugent Camp for Kids are already great parents, but a lot of them are special needs kids from the inner cities, because a lot of my volunteers are heroes of law enforcement and just neighbors who care. So we bring a lot of inner city kids to learn hunter safety, marksmanship, aim small, miss small, not just literally, but figuratively, being the best that they can be, remaining clean and sober so they can truly experience an American dream. Slingshots, really projectile management of arrows and lattiles, and learn how to fish and learn how to turn that fish into food, learn how to skin an animal, the importance of trapping to maintain a healthy environment and wildlife population. And it's been going on. It's unbelievable. I keep in touch now with mothers and fathers of children that are bringing their children to my Ted Nugent Camp for Kids, and they were some of the first participants as young children.
Awesome.
And the testimonials are heart rendering. How I change kids from, being lured into this lie of peer pressure and being, techno zombies, and instead discovering bow hunting and actually running trap lines. I've actually had some kids that were clearly being brainwashed by schools and media and Hollywood, and really reluctant, actually resistant to the spirit of the wild outdoor lifestyle. And then now they own sporting goods stores.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the legacy is amazing. But that's all wonderful. It's all phenomenal and so good as to be immeasurable. But let's talk about the bad and the ugly for a moment, shall we?
You bet.
So that's been going on for 33 years. And all those points I made, wouldn't you think Sports Afield would be interested in such a charity? How about Outdoor Life? How about Guns and Ammo Magazine, a children's charity about conservation and safe gun handling and hunter safety, led by a guy who's a household name worldwide, sold 40 million albums, has had the highest votes in the history of the National Rifle Association. Wouldn't the Ted Nugent Camp for Kids be of some interest to our industry? Obviously not.
Wow.
I dare you to explain that.
I can't.
Yeah, I don't have an answer either.
Yeah. I mean, I know a guy we could call Stan Kroenke, since he owns some of those assets.
But stop and think about that.
Yeah.
And by the way, you've done interviews with me.
You bet.
Do I not express our fundamental conservation beliefs? Don't I express them rather well?
You express them very clearly too.
And now I've trained a whole generation to do so. But Guns and Ammo, not a peep. Never have you seen the name. And this isn't sour grapes. Let's pretend my name is Farnsworth McGillicuddy. If Farnsworth McGillicuddy sold 40 million albums and had the highest votes on the board of directors of the NRA because those shit kicker families believe in me because they've witnessed me crush anti-gunners for 50 years and promote the NRA for better than anybody, better than the entire NRA combined,
Yeah.
statistically, it's the cannibalism, the inbreeding, the intentional disconnect, the jealousy. I just described it pretty good, but it's absolutely unacceptable. And I get it's not sour grapes. I don't need an attaboy. I get an attaboy from the kids that graduated Camp for Kids, which is the ultimate attaboy. And I don't even need that, but it certainly is fortifying. But really, if you want to find out why the Second Amendment and hunting has been in trouble, it's because of the Second Amendment industry and the hunting industry. That's why.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
When I found out that there were gun manufacturers putting money behind Hillary in 2016 because they knew that if she was elected, they'd make more money, I was pissed.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not good.
I was pissed.
Yep. Inbreeding. That's inbreeding and cannibalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's no bueno. Well,
But anyhow, I'll tell you, this year we, even with the weaponized Wuhan virus and Mr. Kami Fauci, Pelosi, Barack, our Camp for Kids, the volunteers and because it's year round. These guys, Kevin Mark and Paul Malone and Ward Parker and Carol Ashworth and Roger in Iowa and year round, nonstop. I just signed a bunch of guitars, a bunch of American flag guitars, and a whole bunch of really nice deer skulls. I mean, as I'm signing the deer skulls for fundraisers, I'm going, do I really want to donate these? I mean, they're beautiful deer. But if you want to see the ultimate wise use conservation, okay, I kill a deer. I kill a lot of deer. I cherish their flesh. I donate to soup kitchens and homeless shelters, my band and my crew and my neighbors, and we eat it year round. Yeah. I use the skins and have them tanned, and I donate them to fundraisers for children's charities and military charities. A skin with a Ted Nugent, my little Crave Man stick guy. People spend thousands of dollars for a white-tailed deer skin with my signature on it. Well, that's not wise use. I don't know what is. But when I sign these deer skulls for fundraisers for cops killed in the line of duty or heroes of the military that were trying to pay off their mortgage, can you imagine a smarter, more wise use of a renewable deer than what I just listed? Especially I can take a shoulder bone, a scapula, and I'll sign it, and a guy will pay $500 for it to raise some money for a kids charity. Is that not the wisest use in the history of use?
I think you've pretty much used every inch of the animal at that point in time. Yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't found a use for their boogers.
Yeah. So how can people, find more information about your Camp for Kids and maybe get more involved or help support it?
Well, certainly, and thanks for the opportunity, because it really does save lives, and it really does recruit new hunters and new sportsmen and new Second Amendment advocates. So they can go to tednugent.com to find out all the stuff we're doing. But there's tednugent.com is a Camp for Kids thread, and our Spirit Campfire and the music and the Hunter Nation. I mean, I'm an alive American. And I do believe that the founding fathers had hoped that all Americans would be like me, to be a force to reckon with, to be suspicious of everything in our government, and to hold people accountable, serving we the people. So tednugent.com is the clearinghouse, the epicenter for raising hell and learning how to get the most flamethrower out of your middle finger.
Awesome. Hey, everybody, we got to take a short commercial break. When we come right back, we're going to get a chance to ask Ted about an old friend he and I have in common.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Marathon Seat Covers. We've got you covered.
All right, we're here in the studio, and on the phone we have Ted Nugent. Ted, we've talked about Camp for Kids, articles you've written, your music, Hunter Nation, all these things that are super powerful. But I grew up not far from a town called Walla Walla, Washington. You know where it is.
Oh, yeah.
And you and I have an old friend. I used to shoot trap with him back in the day, and he would tell me Ted Nugent stories. His name was Gale Martin.
Oh, yeah, one of the founding fathers with Ben Pearson and Fred Bear and Howard Hill. Gale Martin was the real McCoy, man.
Martin Archery, yeah. I remember back in the day, and it's funny. I'd be out there shooting trap, and Gale would – and Gale was the most unassuming guy. Like he would walk up to you at the range. You'd be wearing pants he'd owned for 25 years and an old button-up shirt, and he'd be shooting just an average shotgun. But boy, could he shoot! But anyway, matter of fact, he measured. I went back to him 20-something years later and had him measure that grizzly when I killed the big one for the record book. Yeah, because he was a Boone and Crockett certified measurer, and I mean, take me back to the early days of Ted and archery. How did you get involved with just the archery industry and transition to television and things like that? Let's talk about the early days.
Well, I was born in Detroit in 1948 when it was the arsenal of democracy. There's a springboard for a great American dream.
Oh, yeah.
Detroit stopped making trucks and cars and started building bombers and howitzers. And I was in that vortex of celebrating the historical the definition of good over evil, when the American GI slaughtered the punk Japs and the evil Nazis. And that was quite an atmosphere when the Industrial Revolution was taking off, and Roy Weatherby was developing unbelievable ballistic capabilities with long range to go beyond the 30-30 and the .6. And that was a great, great endeavor, because aim small, miss small is certainly exciting and very disciplinary. But my dad, before I was even born, had discovered this guy named Fred Bear. And he was going the other way. He came from Pennsylvania to Detroit, I think, in 1918 to work in the environs of the industrial explosion. And my dad had a bow when he got back from World War II and back from Korea. But as powerful as that environment was, I think every kid in America had a bow and arrow. I think every kid in America either had or shared a Red Ryder Daisy BB gun.
The guys just got me one for Christmas.
Yeah,
I think every kid in America made a slingshot
Mm-hmm.
and tried to shoot some birds. I believe it was ubiquitous. And being born in Detroit, uh, right on the Rouge River, as every industrial complex was on a waterway, the Rouge River was only 200 yards across Hazleton from my home on 23251 Florence. I can't believe I remember
Wow.
all this.
Yeah.
And and so as I was growing up, my dad had a bow and arrow, and he would shoot in the backyard at a bale of straw, at a paper plate. And even if he hadn't, I so immediately grasped onto it. I'm sure I had a little bow, a little suction cup bow and arrow, shooting stuffed animals in the living room. By the time I was 2 or 3, according to my parents, and by the time I was 4 or 5, we were going up north in the family station wagon where the deer were, and we'd stop in this little shack in Grayling, Michigan. It was kind of an off yellow cinder block shack that had a hand carved piece of wood made by Nels Grumley, by the way. Can you believe I remember this stuff? Nels Grumley, what a name. Nels Grumley was Fred's bowyer, and it said Bear Archery. And my dad would always stop there and he'd have conversation with this tall, lanky, friendly, smiling guy in this room full of bows and arrows. And of course, my idea of an arsenal was 2 arrows back then. And this guy had walls of them. We'd eat at the Grayling restaurant. So I'm too young to understand what's going on. But by the time I was 8 or 9, this is Fred Bear. This guy's on the cover of True magazine with a polar bear and his bow and arrow, and
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get my Grand Slam of songbirds, which I was well on my way, by the way. I had figured out how to build a blind by the bird feeder. But anyhow, if I still do that today, I might tell you. And so,
Hunting over
and
bait
so
since day one.
yes, I'm a big fan. I want to kill stuff where they eat.
Yeah.
So you can see the trajectory I was on.
Yeah.
The Rouge River was right there. Pheasants, quail, so many quail, and of course squirrels and ducks and geese and woodcock and coons and possums and skunks and fox, and there was no coyotes and no deer back then. I was just there a couple of years ago, and there is all kinds of coyotes and deer now down in Detroit. But anyhow, we'd go north and stop at Fred Bear. So now I'm enamored with this guy. This is like, I was also possessed by Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley. I was playing my guitar every day, and I was shooting my bow every day, and I'd make slingshots, and I'd shoot. I was murder. My God, if I could shoot today like I did then, you had this pure youthful subconscious of hand-eye projectile coordination. God, I was murder. The squirrels I'd shoot with my bow and arrow, and if I busted the little cedar arrow, I would just whittle it down to a point, and I would come to half draw. So I was enamored with the 6-string weapon and the 1-string weapon. And I got a pellet gun, a Crossman pellet gun. And I was in charge of shooting sparrows in the garage that we built to keep the poop off the windshield of our 49 Oldsmobile and our 40 the station wagon. So anyhow, I couldn't wait for October to go north and hang out with Fred Bear and have cherry pie and chocolate milk at the Grayling restaurant, and then go deer hunt. We never killed a deer, but my God, I was mesmerized by every minute in the woods, and I'd see a deer and I'd learn about track and poop. I hadn't figured out rubs or scrapes yet, or grunts or any of the vocalizations, but I was enamored with wildlife, and I killed my share of woodchucks and squirrels and chipmunks. And on the Rouge River, I was killing quail by stalking them like a dog, like a puma. And I was fat. My mom and dad taught me how to clean them and gut them and eat them. And so I was just fascinated by this. Now, my brothers and sister were raised the same way, and they enjoy the outdoors and hunting, but nowhere near as possessed as I am. So now I'm rocking and rolling. And that was just consuming. I couldn't wait to learn how to play Chuck Berry licks and Bo Diddley licks and the Ventures and Dwayne Eddy and Lonnie Mack and eventually when the Stones and the Beatles brought American music back to America, and I was learning Motown and James Brown and Wilson Pickett and Sam and Dave and Booker T and the MGs, and I had a band when I was 8 years old. and we would play sock hops and school parties. And then I would go shoot my bow and arrow. I'd go up and down Warwick. And I was murder on pigeons and doves and starlings, man. I would shoot into a flock of doves on the little walkways on Warwick Avenue. And I'd used a bodkin broadhead with a Port Orford cedar arrows I got at Miller's Feed Store. At the end of the season, you could get this beautiful Port Orford cedar arrow with hand-carved high profile fletching, real feathers, and 140 grain field point. You get them for 10 cents a piece. It was you can't buy a feather for 10 cents anymore. So I in this, by the way, here I am, 73, same thing. I do it every day. I shoot my bow every day. I got a suppressed 22 in my ATV, and I shoot a squirrel and a Eurasian dove for my dogs every day. I hunt every day. I trap every day. I play my guitar every day. I crush liberals every day.
Twice a day.
That's where I came from. And I got to tell you, you hear the passion because it's my dream. It's my life. And I feel my crushing liberals is my responsibility, and running the trap line is my responsibility, and killing my own food is a responsibility, and keeping the herds balanced is my responsibility. So when anybody fucks with me, I just eat their face and shit raw sawdust in their face. It's just so easy to crush a liberal. There's just one big stinky lie.
But didn't you write a love song to Nancy Pelosi once?
Yeah, I did. Kiss My Ass was the title.
I heard you play it once. I remember that.
It's a very sincere delivery. Yeah, I write songs. You can tell. Going back to Amboy Dukes, Loaded for Bear, Migration, Living in the Woods, Tooth, Fang, and Claw, Geronimo and Me, The Great White Buffalo, and then I write songs like Wango Tango. They're all legitimate. And Wang Dang Sweet Poontang, my favorite love song ever. So again, when I before the day's over, here it is in Texas at 12:35. Before the day's over, I will pick up my guitar. I do Zoom calls and I unleash my guitar, whether it's a news interview or it's a musical interview. Gentlemen, everybody listening, take a deep breath. I am so alive. What I do is available to all humankind. If you take a deep breath, remain clean and sober so everything works good, and identify your passions. I got buddies who live this passionate life as welders. Their welds will last forever. I got a guy who fixes my Polarises. This guy is a mad scientist with a wrench, and they're fulfilled. Steve, I can see that you're fulfilled. Travis, just by you focusing on the subject you have, you live your American dream. You compartmentalize, so you maximize good, but then you got to jump into the bad and ugly and fight it, and then you're fortified to go back to the good, and more good fortifies you to fight the bad and the ugly. This isn't rocket science. If the goofy guitar player can figure it out, who the hell can't?
You know, Ted, you're one of the few people I know that can walk in two worlds. You're able to, manage a tour and making music and living life the way you want it. Like, you're present in the moment. Mm-hmm. And that's a great skill. And then you somehow find time to get in the field and hunt and fish and do the things that you love. And I know, we all know other people that are, say hunting personalities, but they're also trying to have music careers, but really they're 90% in the music and they've only got their toes over the fence. But you're truly that one guy that can straddle the electric fence and walk it down a straight line. And I want you to know how much I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Steve.
I take inspiration from it. So,
well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you delving into my little American dream. But it's not little, actually; it's a motherfucker. But again, let me summarize it thusly. I'm sitting in my office. This old 86-year-old guy in North Carolina built me a bulletproof chair. It'll stop an .6 bullet. I mean, is made out of beautiful elk hide and bullets and beautiful raw leather. And I guess they retail for like $6,000. He just made it for me. And he called me when he sent it and said, I just want you to know, Mr. Nugent, that I've lived a long time and I can't thank you enough for standing up for the good stuff like you do every day. And I don't need a $6,000 bulletproof chair. I certainly thanked him. And
nobody's going to shoot you in the ass while you're sitting down anyway.
Well, I guarantee
or in the back when you turn around.
Enough. Nobody's getting close enough anyhow. I sent off a bunch of rounds this morning out of my Glock 10 millimeter using a Remington ammo, and I was knocking over LaRue Tactical 18-inch plates at 100 yards. I think I got 12 out of 14 rounds. But anyhow, so don't fuck with me or I'll send you. My point, everybody goes, who's your security guard? And I go, you're looking at him.
There you go.
So my point is that, yes, I'm raw. I'm primal because I'm honest. And if I compromise my honesty, I compromise me. But let me tell you, when it comes to kicking down a door to arrest a murderer, I'm not bragging, but I've been trained by the best of the best, so I aspire to their level. And I've got, I think, 14 felony arrests to my credit. And in every instance, it was life-threatening, and no rounds were fired, damn it. But but I've been there, and you're talking about both sides. And I've also been contacted by families since the 1960s to fulfill a wish by a dying son and daughter. Now, stop and think what a family vetting process exists when their 6-year-old Macon Lynn is going to be dead in 6 months, and his last wish is to go hunting with Ted Nugent.
Yeah, I can process that.
If anybody has a problem with me, you're an asshole. Because I'm rough and raw, which is good. And I'm also on a true north compass setting to unbelievably qualify for those families at that emotional juncture in their life that my name comes up when their 7-year-old daughter has leukemia, won't see their 8th birthday, and they say, I want to go hunt with Ted Nugent.
It's humbling.
I'm surprised I can breathe. It's so humbling. So that exists. So my life is dedicated to earn that.
Yeah.
And if there's something more powerful, call me right away. I want to know what that might be. And I'm a pretty adventurous, intellect challenging guy. I can't fathom what would be more important than terminally ill little boys and girls' last wish to be around a campfire with this goofball. So if indeed I do, and I do qualify for that, nothing else matters. My critics can eat shit and die because none of them have ever been requested to spend the last experience with a dying child, because all my critics are pricks.
Yeah, I stand with you on that one.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Without a doubt. Well, and when we get to do those things with those kids, that's, I don't know about you, but I usually try to get really nice photography and stuff like that and share that with the family, because, when the child's gone, the family, that's all they have afterward is the memories, so we try to, get that to them,
Good for you. And I'll tell you, because as a hunter, Steve, you project the essence of God's duties. As hunters, we're doing God's work. That term is thrown around a lot, but what is more God's work than fulfilling our stewardship responsibilities? So that purity that you represent, and by the way, a big salute to you, because you do, and I've said it before, but you do. That's why you qualify for that emotional moment.
Yeah.
And do others as well, I suppose. I'm sure there's some stoner rockers, because their music, even killer music from stoner rockers. I spent the weekend with Keith Richards at Studio 54, where they're gay guys slamming each other on the dance floor. So I've been to both ends.
Hopefully not
speaking.
their ends.
No, that's out of range for my projectile. But at Studio 54 with Keith Richards, I was packing. I promise you. But I've been to both ends, and I'm sure there's guys who do abuse substances and probably have immoral experiences in their lives that still get called upon because the music has teeth. The music has piss and vinegar. And I'm sure that those exist. And to those individuals, I salute you and praise you for that. But I wish you would learn from that emotional request that maybe there's more than just getting high. Maybe by being as clean and sober as possible, which, by the way, perfectly clean and sober is possible. I'm proof that maybe those moments where you're requested to share that emotional time with that family, maybe there's a lesson to be learned there. And my first experience was back in 68 or 69 with the Amboy Dukes, where a kid named not Travis, Jacob. His name was Jacob. He was 16 or 17. He had heard my interviews about hunting and fishing and trapping and archery, and he'd never done any of those things. So we got a hold of my booking agent, Dave Leone and Nick Karras. I remember everything at Diversified Management Detroit. And he goes, I have terminal cancer, and they don't think I'll live a year. Could you get me a hold of Ted Nugent? I'd like to see what this hunting thing is all about. And I went, whoa. Can you imagine, as a young man myself, I think I was 19, and I'm just into girls and music and touring. And I'm going, wow, that's pretty heavy. So I called Jacob and I says, yeah, where are you? I'm in Wyandotte, downriver. I go, yeah, I know the area well. I trained with my Uncle John on the Detroit River in Wyandotte with his Ruger 22. I remember all these details. And I said, yeah, can you meet me out, I don't know, the Waterloo Recreation Area near Ann Arbor? He goes, yeah. So we met out there, and I had a Smith & Wesson 22, a Model 17, and I had some CB caps. I always train people with CB caps because then there's no report, no recoil, and they just have to focus on the mechanics. And I let him shoot a bunch. His eyes, everybody I've ever done that with is, my God, it's a new world of intensity and inspiration, stimuli. Then I'd graduate to 22 shorts and put some ears and eyes on him. We ran out of ammo. That's all he wanted to do was, shoot clumps of dirt and hit rocks down there. And he was hitting them out there 50, 60 yards after he figured out trigger squeeze and hand-eye coordination. But I'm telling you, we hugged, and I didn't hug people back then. But I'll hug that motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he was dead before the year was up. But I often hearken back to that. And I wasn't a very smart guy back then, but I was smart enough to know what that meant. And that helped me stay clean and sober. And it helped me pay attention to what Mr. Hand puts into Mr. Mouth. Because most of that cancer stuff is a direct result of the scam by the USDA and the FDA and the medical scam artists out there, which we're living the worst of the worst right now. And I started paying attention to that kind of stuff. And I think that's why my music got more intense, why my demand for tightness and musical authority from the Amboy Dukes is I was like a drill sergeant. But I'm sure you felt the same way, Steve. There's a lesson to be learned that you have now. You question how the hell did you earn that? So now you dedicate yourself to earning that, and that's where the true north compass setting is unambiguous.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
You know, looking back at your career, your music opened a lot of doors and inspired a lot of people, and obviously your hunting and outdoor lifestyles inspired music and stuff. And, as we're, winding down this podcast, I'm literally I feel like I just plugged my battery into like an Energizer, like recharging station. And, I'm sitting here thinking, man, the things that we do to inspire people, whether it's your music or they're watching Spirit of the Wild television on an outdoor channel or they're, watching our program, whatever it might be, when people watch our show and they're inspired by it, that leads right into what you were just saying. Like, what do we do to deserve that? And, and then how do we pay them the due respect? Well, we do that by being, like you said, clean and sober, clear of mind, present in the moment, there for people when we need them, and there for our communities when we need them. And it's humbling. I mean, honestly, it's humbling. You're a far more public personality than I've ever been, obviously, being on stage literally thousands and thousands of times, having millions of fans and selling 40 million albums. And I just want you to know I take a lot of inspiration from your energy. That's the one thing. When people ask me, like, oh, Ted Nugent, what I was like, dude, you cannot match his energy. Not 10 of you plugged in together can't match his energy.
Yeah.
So
well, I thank you, Steve. Well, let me tell you, that's why I started the Ted Nugent Spirit of the Wild TV show. I knew it was the ultimate way to promote hunting.
Yes.
To celebrate conservation to people. You realize that I'm the only show that has a huge rock and roll demographic that have never left the pavement. And they, beginning, by the way, I think we're approaching our 600th episode on Spirit of the Wild on Outdoor Channel, and we've been doing it before there was an Outdoor Channel. We started in public television.
Yeah.
We've done, and we lured in people that would have never considered hunting, including people that hated hunting and thought we were heartless cowards for murdering a deer. And I've always said, what the hell does killing a deer have to do with courage? I mean, you could be a complete idiot and still sneak up on a deer probably. My point being is that I started Spirit of the Wild by the inspiration of Fred Bear when he had his hand on my shoulder in October of '87 before he died in '88. And he said, I love the way you do it. You're getting a hold of a demographic that this industry has no prayer to connect with. He said, you keep doing what you're doing. I hear the people go, well, he's really harsh. If you're not harsh, you're passionate. Sheep-like people, especially in our industry, misinterpret my passion for that's kind of vulgar. I've never been vulgar in the hunting world. I'm vulgar on the Steve West podcast because it's fun. But he had his hand on my shoulder and he said, I love the way you do it. In fact, Fred Bear told me that since the 70s, every sporting show he went to, anybody under 40, when they came up to him to say hello, everybody under 40 wanted to know if he knew Ted Nugent. Because I've always shot my bow and arrow on stage. I shoot flaming arrows on stage in front of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of rock and roll fans that would have never seen an arrow in their lives. And what's more dramatic and exciting than a flaming arrow at the end of a song called Great White Buffalo?
After you ride out on a freaking buffalo.
Yes. And so Fred said he chuckled. He knew he was a marketing genius. He was a great entrepreneur. And he said he chuckled. He goes, everybody I run into, they love the way you shoot the flaming arrow on stage and talk about hunting and tooth, fang, and claw and a great white buffalo and loaded for bear and hibernation and migration. I have a song in the new record, Steve, I'm going to send you. You can use it as bumper music. It's an instrumental in the tradition of migration and hibernation and earth tones. In fact, Travis, get a copy of Earth Tones from the Crave album, I believe it is.
Done.
Anyhow, the new song is called Winter, Spring, Summer, Fall. And it's an instrumental that is the soundtrack to those sunrises and sunsets and weather fronts and moons behind the clouds and bugling elk and the swooshing of wings on a migratory flock and the whistling of a wood duck coming into decoys. I'm the only guy that knows what that is, and it comes out of my guitar. It's called Winter, Spring, Summer, Fall. And when you hear it, close your eyes and you're up to your ass in a marsh. So that's why I do this. That's why I started the Camp for Kids. That's why I started the Spirit of the Wild TV show. I don't make any money doing this stuff. In fact, it costs me when it gets right down to it. But it's the way to get the truth about the perfection of hunting, fishing, and trapping as the most positive, environmentally sound activity available to mankind.
Yeah.
And people have learned that. and they finally went, habitat carrying capacity. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that the winter severity index and all the food is gone, and there's a winter killer. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, food plot management to sustain all wildlife, including endangered species and songbirds. Oh, I heard that from Ted Nugent. Listen to my Joe Rogan podcast. I ripped off heads and shit down necks when they think that tofu will save an animal. Nobody's ever killed fewer pigs because you don't eat pork.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
So I'm this megaphone. I'm this loudmouth son of a bitch, which is what the founding fathers wanted everybody to be.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yep. So
hey,
God bless you.
Hey, thanks for the tip on the song. I can hardly wait to listen to it. You know, as we close this fucker out here today in the podcast, dude, and I get to say that just because we've dropped so many F-bombs on the show today. You know, I had to let go. You know, Ted, I want to thank you for joining us. Honestly, like I said, you bring a lot of energy. You do a lot for the community. And everyone, I mentioned this earlier on in the podcast before Ted called in. After the closing credits, we have something special to share with you. Ted sent it to me last night. It's the new single that's going to be released shortly. And would you say February 5th? And
American Campfire, baby.
American Campfire. And it's going to be from his new album released later this April called Detroit Muscle. Everybody get online, download it, order it, buy it, live the lifestyle, listen to the music. And once again, right after the closing credits, we bring you American Campfire.
The Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Farwide, the game-changing free app that puts outdoor intelligence in the palm of your hand.
Calling your name. Everybody loves the American Campfire. Don't you hear it calling your name? Everybody loves the American Campfire. Go ahead and fan the flames. We'll gather around cheering, the party is on. Family and friends are here. Pull up a stump and set yourself down. Let me buy you all a beer. Because everybody loves the American Campfire. Don't you hear it calling your name? Everybody loves the American Campfire. Go ahead and fan the flames. Well, it's a long, long way to kingdom come, but I think we have finally arrived. Life, liberty, rock and roll. I've never felt so alive. Everybody loves the American Campfire. Don't you hear it calling your name? Everybody loves the American Campfire. Go ahead and fan the